What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG, and I got no time for spiel, and I got no time for skits. Usually, I do a skit for these preview card videos, but this time, seriously, my preview card is too good to dilute the video with a skit. I just want to talk about how awesome this card is, like all videos. So, without further ado, hope your face and brain are ready for this, because it's about to blow your mind off your shoulders. Here's Abandoned Sarcophagus. Abandoned Sarcophagus is 3 mana for a rare artifact. It says, you may cast non-land cards with cycling from your graveyard, people. If a card with cycling would be put into your graveyard from anywhere and it wasn't cycled, exile it instead. Do you see? Do you understand, people? You can cast things from your graveyard that have cycling. It's ridiculous. And yeah, if you cast an instant or sorcery with cycling from your graveyard, it doesn't go back in your graveyard, you just exile it. Who cares? The first line of text is the super important part on this. You can just cycle away things like Cast Out or Censor or Hieroglyphic Illumination. You can just get rid of those now early game, knowing, confident in the ability to cast them again. That kind of changes the entire way we play certain decks, Being able to cycle Censor is kind of important. Being able to cycle Cast Out is even more important, knowing that you'll be able to play it later. That's just ridiculous. Now you can get super extra value out of Hieroglyphic Illumination. It's freaking crazy. And there's a lot more cards, obviously, that this works with. I'll be talking about them all videos, so get used to that. Bring up the graphic. Dissenter's Deliverance, Renewed Faith, Haze of Pollen, Curator of Mysteries. All of these now are cards that you can either get double duty out of, like by, for instance, playing Haze of Pollen and then casting Abandoned Sarcophagus and then casting Haze of Pollen again. You can get double duty out of all of these, or you can cycle them away stress-free, knowing you can just play them out of your graveyard whenever you freaking want to. And note that all the cards I've talked about in this video so far that cycle are in the new Perspectives deck in some way or another in the 75, whether they're in the main or the sideboard. So this card is serious implications for the new Perspectives deck, which is already posting some results post Marvel ban. And if this deck can find room for Sarcophagus, which I imagine it's going to try to do, then it could be a real force, knowing you can cycle whatever you want to away and just play it whenever you feel like it. As far as other stuff you can get extra mileage out of, you can now essentially get 10 cards milled off of a Compelling Argument. Just play Compelling Argument turn 2, play Abandoned Sarcophagus turn 3, and then next turn you can go ahead and get another 5 cards from your Compelling Argument. It also turns Compelling Argument into a 3-mana card that just says draw a card and mill 5. That's great too. And I should also say that this works really well with Sweltering Suns, by the way. You can get extra mileage out of this too. Cast Sweltering Suns somewhere on your next few turns, cast Abandoned Sarcophagus, and then you get another Sweltering Suns out of your graveyard. Being able to cast it twice is ridiculous, and yet again, this allows you to cycle away Sweltering Suns when you don't need it, and if you need it later on in the game, just cast it out of the graveyard. So, all the cards just in Standard that this works with are ridiculous, and it makes previously unplayable cards possibly playable, like Deem Worthy. You can get 9 damage out of Deem Worthy now. Or 14 if you really wanted to, but 9 damage out of Deem Worthy is completely doable now. Same thing with Wander in Death. Cycle it away and then cast it when you got a couple of dudes in your graveyard you want back. Like, these are cards that we never considered playing in Standard that might actually see some play. Like, you can kill them with just a couple of Deem Worthies. Think about that. Oh, and by the way, there's cards that cycle in Hour of Devastation, just in this set so far. We've seen Nimble Obstructionist, and we've seen Razaketh's Ritual. Just today, as a matter of fact, we saw Ritual. So, these works pretty well with both of these, With Razaketh's Ritual, you can cycle it away for just 1 black mana, and then when you do need to tutor something, pay the 5. Totally fine. And Nimble Obstructionist, you can cycle away, and then get a 3-power flyer whenever you want to cast it out of your graveyard. And by the way, going to point this out a couple of times this video. If you can cast a creature with cycling out of your graveyard, you can pop it back to your hand and cycle it again. That's pretty sweet, and that works really well with Obstructionist. You cycle away Obstructionist, you counter an ability, and then you can play Obstructionist, pop it back to your hand, and you've got it ready to counter yet another ability. Seems decent. But Standard is not the only format that people play. Obviously, a lot of people play Commander, and this card has huge implications in Commander as well. So let's go through that. First of all, the Decrees cycle. Just imagine, I don't even have to say much about that. Just imagine these, or Abandoned Sarcophagus, with the Decree cycle. Same thing with the Resounding cycle. Resounding Cycle is especially sweet. You know, you cycle them for a bunch of mana, but you can still get value out of them once they're in your graveyard. That's pretty sweet too. This is good with Gym Palm Polluter. You can do the same thing I just talked about with Nimble Obstructionist. You know, you can cycle away Gym Palm Polluter, deal a bunch of damage, and then play it out of your graveyard, bounce it back to your hand, cycle it again. You can actually just keep doing that over and over if you have a reusable bounce effect. Check out Homing Sliver. By the way, you know, in Commander, this works pretty interestingly with Homing Sliver, you know. It's just cool that you can cycle away Homing Sliver and still play it to give all your creatures that ability. Super dope. And one more thing with Commander, Starstorm. Starstorm is a whole lot better with this card in play too. Just want to point that out. Still, by the way, not done. I've got some other formats I want to talk about, or at least I don't know how good Abandoned Sarcophagus is with these cards, but I would at least be dumb if I didn't point out that Cloud of Fairies, Edge of Autumn, Street Wraith, and Unearth all exist, and these are cards that see play in various formats, including Commander. And again, not sure how great it is with Cloud of Fairies, but I at least have to point out that Cloud of Fairies is a very popular card with cycling. Same thing with Edge of Autumn. Street Wraith is a very popular modern card, although I'm not really sure how much you want to play Street Wraith out of your graveyard. But Unearth, you know, Unearth is popular in Legacy. Again, not sure how much a 3-mana artifact is great in Legacy, but still, these cards exist and are extremely popular, and I probably should point them out. In other news, as far as stuff that I'd be dumb if I didn't point out, not only New Perspectives exist, but Fluctuator exists as well. I could definitely see people trying to do some crazy stuff with that. Fluctuator is a card, ladies and gentlemen. And the last card I want to bring up for the video, it's a bunch of cards I know, but the last thing I want to talk about, let's bring it back to Standard for a second, where I point out that Trophy Mage is a card that exists too. So, whew, like that's a bunch of cards throughout Magic's history that have cycling and are important in certain formats. But as far as Standard and Commander goes, I think this card definitely has a shot. And I'm very serious about this card in Standard, guys. I have had this card for like a couple of weeks now, and I have just been bubbling with excitement, ready to show you this card, dudes. So like, just look at it. Look at the card. It not only works with every card I've pointed out in this video, but a bevy of other cards that I haven't talked about. So just freaking look at it. I could not possibly be more excited about a preview card than this. This is one of my, like, objectively one of my favorite cards from the whole set, and it's my preview card. That makes me really happy. So thanks, Wizards, for the killer preview card. And when I say Wizards, I mean Wizards of the Coast and all of you Wizards out there, because without you, I would have never gotten big enough to get a preview card like this. That's really, really exciting to show to you guys. You know, usually preview cards are like, hey, check out this card, it's never going to see play. This, though, probably. This card is extremely powerful, I would say. So let me know how you guys feel about it down there in the comments section. Really interested to hear your thoughts, and you guys can tell I'm flustered. Like, even after 2 weeks of looking at the card and planning this video, I am still like just uncontrollably excited about the card. So take over for me, calm down for me, and let me know how you feel about this card down there in the comments with a reasoned argument. And maybe, or you could just be as excited as I am about this card, because this card is freaking nuts. Sorry about the lack of a skit this time, my Wizards. I know you guys sometimes like those, and some of you don't, but whatever. You know, I just felt like this. I wanted this whole video to be about this freaking card and what we can do with it in almost every format. So if I missed anything, let me know down there in the comments section. Like the video if you enjoyed the video and you want to see me keep getting more preview cards, which I certainly do. You can also sub to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell for the notifications, because if I keep getting preview cards like this, you're definitely going to want to be subbed, is all I can say. So make sure you do all the YouTube stuff and check us out on Twitter at SBMTG Dev, or you can support the channel. Make sure we get better equipment so that when I do record these preview cards, it doesn't look like some guy in his basement. You know, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/SBMTG. So do all that stuff, and I'll see you guys later. Get to brewing. Get to brewing. We've all got to do that, because this card is ridiculous. I think it's hard to argue that this card is ridiculous. I'll see you guys next time. I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my Wizards.